everyone, and welcome to another reading vlog. The lighting is horrendous, I am aware, but it probably is only going to get worse as this video progresses. But it is day one of Star Wars-a-thon, which is the Star Wars-themed readathon that I created last year and I brought back this year, but last year we only did it for 48 hours, this year it's a whole week long, so I'm going to make an attempt to vlog this week. I feel like my vlogs as of lately, but probably as of always, have been rather boring, and I'm just taking notice of it now. So usually about halfway through the week, I get really discouraged and just feel like scrapping the whole video, so we'll see how this goes, but I'm gonna make a solid effort to vlog this week. So like I said, it is day one, it's almost noon, and I haven't read at all. In fact, I woke up this morning and totally forgot that it was a thing that was even happening. I was going to dress in Star Wars attire all week, but then I woke up and I dressed in full Beetlejuice, like completely different franchise. My bad. But the first book I'm going to start off by reading is Leia, Princess of Alderaan. This is a little, like, prequel book to A New Hope. I think Leia is about 16 when this book takes place, and it wasn't until last night, because this little book is very deceiving. I did not expect it to be 400 pages long, but it is. However, the writing, or the font rather, does seem pretty large, so hopefully it won't take me too long to get through. I do have to run some errands today, so I don't know that this is going to be my most productive day of reading, but I'm going to make a solid attempt to read today and vlog, so we'll just see how this goes. So it is now day 2 of Star Wars-a-thon. Something that I am coming to realize when trying to like improve my vlogs and make them a little less boring and a little more interesting is that oftentimes I would try to like force myself to vlog every single day or sometimes multiple times a day because I thought what made a good vlog was like consistency and actually like reading and vlogging every day, whereas I feel like it's far more interesting if I only film when I actually have something to talk about and like an actual update to give. So I'm trying to like relearn that in my head to like be okay with skipping a day or only filming like one clip in a day. So just wanted to give that little explanation as to why like it was literally the first day yesterday and there was one clip and now we're on the second day, but it's because I didn't have anything to say yesterday, so here we are. So for my reading update, I am on page 130 of Leia, Princess of Alderaan, and I'm a little bored with it, not gonna lie. Now this is very much not the book's fault. This is definitely a personal preference thing in that this book is a YA, obviously. We're following a 16-year-old main character, but it's the kind of YA that feels like it could almost be a middle grade. It just has very simple kind of writing and just like the way that the characters are handling situations, even kind of like the pacing of it, like how quickly we're jumping from scene to scene, all feels a little bit juvenile to me and just a little too much. Like that's why I don't really read middle grades as an adult, even though I know that there are a ton of adults that love reading middle grades. There have only been a very select few that I have enjoyed, and they have almost been exclusively written by Neil Gaiman, so to give you context of what kind of middle grades that I like. But yeah, so it's a personal preference thing that I just feel like this is a little too young for me to be reading. I think had I read this when I was between the ages of like 12 to 16, I probably would have really enjoyed it. This is also very much a coming of age story, which just isn't really my jam, and anytime I have picked one up, which happens more often than you think, I have picked up a book thinking it's going to be a romance and it ends up being a coming of age story, and I just don't really enjoy them. I'm not really sure why, but in this book, to give you a little bit more context, obviously Leia is Princess of Alderaan, which you would think that would automatically make her inherit the throne at some point, but she actually has to prove herself in order to do that. So she has to pass these tests or these challenges of the mind, body, and heart, I believe. So she has to do like humanitarian work, like political stuff. I think she has to climb a mountain for the body challenge. So it's very much a coming of age story, which just isn't really my cup of tea. I find it a little bit boring. I'm not even halfway through it, so maybe the second half of it will totally blow me away and the story will pick up a little bit more. She did just meet Tarkin for the first time, and I thought that was an interesting scene, and I kind of hope that at some point during this novel, since she has to pass all these challenges, it would be interesting if they at some point alluded to the fact that she does have like Force capabilities. So that's my update as far as reading. In other news, I think I have decided that for this week I'm going to try and watch as many Star Wars novels as possible, starting off with The Phantom Menace, which I have not seen in years. I've kind of avoided the movie, pretended like it didn't really exist, because, well, we all know why. But that being said, I wouldn't actually place it as my least favorite Star Wars film. That title still belongs to another, shall we say. You can place your guesses in the comments if you'd like. But yeah, I want to see how many Star Wars films I can watch. I just want to be like fully in the Star Wars zone this week. So that's what I'm going to do tonight. So it is officially May the 4th be with you, one of my favorite days of the year that isn't actually a holiday. So naturally, I am dressed in my Star Wars attire. Usually I work on this day. Like, I think the last 3 years I worked on May the 4th. So usually I'd go a little bit more all out than this, but since I'm not going anywhere, I figured I would just chill in some comfy clothes. But as far as my reading goes, I am on page 265 of Leia. Sadly, I'm still just a bit bored with it. Also, there is a subplot romance in this book between Leia and another character, and I have never been so, like, disinterested in a romance in my life, because you know that it's going to end up going nowhere. Like, this is the most pointless romance I have ever read about. So, yeah, I'm just a bit bored with this, but I'm hoping to finish it sometime today. But last night, actually not last night, I was supposed to start it last night, but I started it this morning watching The Phantom Menace, and wow, that movie is not as terrible as I remember it being. Like, maybe if you're like a film critic, like maybe it's a badly made movie, but I don't dislike it as much as I thought that I did. And watching it, like, I only got about halfway through it this morning, but it's like surprisingly nostalgic for me, and that just could be because I haven't seen it in years, whereas the other ones I watch a bit more often. But like the nostalgia that came back with like Liam Neeson's face, oh my gosh, it was amazing. So I am thoroughly enjoying, looking forward to watching the rest of The Phantom Menace and then moving into the Clone Wars, not the Clone Wars, Attack of the Clones, because I believe tomorrow is when our Revenge of the Sith watch-along is going to take place. So I want to have both of those movies down before tomorrow night. So I think I'm going to go make myself a cup of coffee. I have a particular Star Wars mug in mind, and then I'm probably going to read a bit more of this book and watch a bit more of my movie.
Give us justice. You could call for a vote of no confidence in Chancellor Valorum.
He's been our strongest supporter.
Trained as a Jedi.
Yoda didn't always look like that. So it is currently 12:55 in the morning, which officially makes it day 4 of the readathon. I am currently on page, I think, 326, so I haven't gotten much farther in this book, but I'm definitely going to finish it tomorrow, or today, I guess, since technically it is tomorrow, or today, whatever. It's too late. Anyways, as far as my movie goes, I am 40 minutes from the end of The Phantom Menace, which, if you're wondering why it's taking me a whole day to watch this movie and I'm still not done with it, it's because I have the attention span of a flea, so I can only watch movies about 5 minutes at a time, and the same goes for books, except this one isn't super interesting, so it's taking me even longer. So that's how my night is going, but hopefully I will have a better update for you tomorrow morning. Or today. Whenever it is. So it is now officially Revenge of the 5th, one of my other favorite days of the year. Probably because Revenge of the Sith is my favorite Star Wars film, so like this day is especially special to me. But excitingly enough, this morning I finished Leia, Princess of Alderaan, so this is my first book read of the week. I ended up landing on a 2.5-star rating because I'll admit the last 100 pages of this book were reasonably decent, especially in comparison to the first 300 pages of this book. Like I said, I think at the beginning, this book was a lot longer than I expected it to be. But yeah, the last 100 pages were okay. I still didn't really love this book. I think it would have been better if it didn't feel so much like a middle grade, and I still don't know if my explanation for that makes a lot of sense, but it was like the pacing of the book, like the events that happen in the book, and then how quickly we seem to move on from them and how the characters react to them. All of it combined just felt very juvenile to me, as well as just the writing in general. It was kind of like, at some points, it was like I couldn't decipher if Leia was a child or an adult, but like at no point did she really feel like a teenager in this book. So it was just like I just couldn't find the difference between the two. So that was a little disappointing. What I will say though is that there was a character in here whose name I always forget, but her name is like Almond or something like that. Almond, that's what I said. Amelin, that's her name. I don't even know if that's how you pronounce it, but she was a good character. I kind of wish I could just get a whole book of her character, because she was like, I don't want to say the weird one, but like that's what she was. She was like the Luna Lovegood character of the book, and I thoroughly enjoyed her, so that was a lot of fun. Also, the ending was a little bit predictable, maybe due to the romancy kind of situation, because like I said, that was just the most pointless romance ever because you knew how it was going to end, and I totally predicted it. And obviously there's going to be some leeway when it comes to predictability with Star Wars books, because if you're familiar with the movies, then you can usually predict like how a plot can go, because there are only so many different ways it can happen. So yeah, those are my thoughts on this book. I'm going to save any more thoughts that I have, which aren't a lot, for my wrap-up. So now I'm going to move on to my second book of the week, which is Labyrinth of Evil. This is the first book in a, like, Revenge of the Sith trilogy. So this first one is a little prequel to Revenge of the Sith. I kind of wish I would have read this one first, since our watch-along for Revenge of the Sith is tonight, so it would have been fun to have read this first. But also, I don't think this is a part of the canon anymore. I tried looking up what books are still a part of the canon, and that wasn't one of them. So that's a little disappointing, but nonetheless, Anakin is my favorite Star Wars character, hence why Revenge of the Sith is my favorite movie. So I'm super excited to read this book because I feel like it's going to heavily focus on his character, hopefully, fingers crossed. So also this morning, I finished, or no, actually it was really late last night at like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, I finished The Phantom Menace. And then this morning, I started Attack of the Clones because, like I said, our watch-along is tonight, so I want to finish Attack of the Clones before we watch Revenge of the Sith, which is at 7. So, it was weird. Attack of the Clones and The Phantom Menace were, like, backwards in my head. So I feel like The Phantom Menace wasn't as bad as I remember it being. I still don't think it was, like, a great movie, but it just wasn't as bad as I remember it. Whereas Attack of the Clones, which I consider to be one of my favorites, is so much cringier than I remember it being. Like, all of the dialogue in general just feels kind of uncomfortable, but especially the stuff between Anakin and Padme, I'm just like, oh, what is going on? I feel like it's especially jarring for me because, if you don't know, Anakin was basically like my first big crush. Like, Orlando Bloom as Legolas may have come first, but those movies, like, they all came out around the same time, so Anakin was like my first big crush. So like 5 to 10-year-old Hannah was completely charmed by all of these Anakin scenes, and now watching it, I'm like, this ain't it. This dude needs to stop talking because it don't sound right. So yeah, that's what's going on right now. So I am going to start this book. I don't know how far I'm going to get into it because, like I said, I really want to finish Attack of the Clones before our Revenge of the Sith watch-along tonight. So I'm going to go do that, and I will update you a bit later. So it is now after 9 o'clock at night, and I just finished the watch-along for Revenge of the Sith, which was so much fun. Not just because it's my favorite Star Wars movie, but I absolutely love watching movies along with other people, and especially because whenever I do these watch-alongs, I always learn a ton about the movie that we're watching, because to make the watch-alongs a little bit more like interesting and engaging, I always like to post little like Easter eggs or fun facts for the film, and so obviously I have to research them before I host the watch-along, and so I always end up learning like a ton of stuff about all of the movies that I do watch-alongs for, and then sharing the information with anybody that's participating. So that was a lot of fun. I always forget how much I love that movie, but also how much it kills me at the end. Like, I am not really an emotional person when it comes to books, but it's a completely different story when it comes to movies, and the end of Revenge of the Sith just gets me every time. And to be completely honest, I have a bit of a bone to pick with Obi-Wan Kenobi because when I was a kid, that scene when Anakin burns up really freaked me out as a kid, so I always fast forwarded that scene or like just skipped it altogether or closed my eyes or something if I was watching it with somebody else because I did not want to watch that scene. So I've only actually seen it in full like a handful of times. And so I had seen it for the first time in quite a while a couple months ago, and watching it for like basically the first time, I came to a realization that Obi-Wan Kenobi makes a questionable choice, and like one of the last things he says to Anakin is, "You were like a brother to me." And then he catches on fire and Obi-Wan Kenobi walks away. Like, he is clearly screaming in pain and suffering. You can't tell me that Obi-Wan Kenobi couldn't have walked 2 feet and just ended his suffering. Like, I understand that he can't because then the rest of the movies couldn't have happened, but Obi-Wan Kenobi doesn't know that. So morally, I'm not keen on Obi-Wan Kenobi's choices there. Oh my gosh, I'm so worked up about it that I can't even speak properly. As far as my reading goes, I did not get very far in Labyrinth of Evil. In fact, I think I'm only on chapter 4. Oh no, I'm on chapter 6. But I'm only 30 pages into it because the chapters are super short in this book, which I love a good short chapter. And I don't know if it's because the last book that I read wasn't very good, or because I just love these characters so much, or because this book is just genuinely well written, but I am super enjoying the 30 pages that I just read. I think it could just be because I didn't enjoy the last book so much, and also I will never not like reading about Anakin. Like, I know that I said that he was my first crush, but 15 years later, and it still holds true, so that's what's going on. But it's already a bit late, so I should probably go and like get ready for bed, and then I'm just gonna try and read the rest of the night. I may not have also been able to finish the entirety of Attack of the Clones before starting Revenge of the Sith, so I also have to finish like the last 45 minutes of Attack of the Clones tonight, and then we're going to get started with the original trilogy sometime tomorrow. So we are back in the same angle and harsh lighting that we started this vlog in, except now it is actually day 6 of Star Wars-a-thon. I didn't vlog at all yesterday because yesterday was just a day, so I didn't vlog. But I'm excited to say that I am now at the halfway point of Labyrinth of Evil. I'm on chapter 25, which is on page like 156, so I might be like a little bit less than halfway, but like I'm basically halfway through it, and I'm still really enjoying it, which makes it even sadder to think that this might not be a part of the canon anymore, because you can just tell that this author put in so much research and everything to put this book together, and I think for some people this might be way too info-dumpy, because even at the 150 page mark, we are still getting a lot of like history to the characters and in a kind of info-dumpy way. So I feel like for some people this wouldn't really be the book for them, but for me, even though I'm a really big Star Wars fan, I am an easily confused Star Wars fan because there are a lot of characters, there's a lot of planets, and just a lot going on. I mean, there's like at this point, like 3 generations of history that you have to know, plus everything that happened before that. So it's just a lot going on. So I really appreciate the backstory that we are still continuing to get as I read this book, and so far, even from this book, which now, because it might not be canon, now I don't know if it's real or not, but like I feel like I've learned so much stuff about the history just through the 150 pages of this book that I've read. So I really appreciate that. I also feel like something that I struggle a lot with when it comes to Star Wars books, and just any kind of book that I read where you would initially know the characters from the movies, I always feel like the books sometimes don't do a good job of capturing the real essence of the characters, especially whenever I read books that feature Han Solo. I feel like he's one of the worst characters to write dialogue for, because in the books it just never sounds like him. Like, I can just never picture him saying the dialogue that some of these authors write for him in the books. And so with this book, I feel like he does actually capture the essence of the characters really well, and especially like the kind of snarky sarcasm between Anakin and Obi-Wan. I think he does it really well. Although Anakin just called Obi-Wan a spoil sport, and that was a little far for me. But nonetheless, for the most part, I feel like he's pretty spot on with the dialogue and just how the characters would actually act and the things that they would say in these kinds of situations. A couple of the things that I really appreciated about this book was the fact that the author at one point actually alludes to something that happens in a deleted scene of Attack of the Clones, and also in the chapter that I just read, there is a part in which somebody says, good luck to Anakin, and Anakin says, thanks, but there's no such thing, and I thought that that was a nice little kind of Easter egg to A New Hope. So I'm just really enjoying this book, if you couldn't tell, and hopefully I'm going to try to finish it or get close to finishing it by the end of today, so maybe I can at least start a third book tomorrow. As far as watching the films, I haven't started on the original trilogy because with having just watched the prequels and now reading a prequel book, I just kind of want to stay in the mindset of the prequels, so I don't want to start on the original trilogy just yet. And I've actually been watching all of the deleted scenes for the prequel movies, so I just watched the Revenge of the Sith ones, and now this afternoon I think I'll go and rewatch the Attack of the Clone ones because I haven't seen them in quite a few years. And I've also been watching a lot of the like behind the scenes little featurette things, and there's a YouTuber that I came across, I think his channel is called Star Wars Theory, but he just makes Star Wars videos and he uploads like every single day. It's crazy, but he makes really good content, and I actually remember coming across his channel a while ago when he made a video that was like defending Hayden Christensen as Anakin, and as we've established, Anakin is my favorite character, and obviously I love Hayden Christensen as Anakin, so I thoroughly appreciated that video that he had made defending Hayden Christensen as the character, because he did portray him really well despite what some people think. So yeah, that is my only update for right now, and I will probably hopefully update you guys later tonight. So it is 11:45 at night, which is why I'm looking a little disheveled because it's late, but I wanted to give you an update because I have just finished Labyrinth of Evil and I super enjoyed this book. I think I'm going to give it a 4-star rating. It's not quite up there with my 5-star books, but I honestly had such a fun time reading this book, and I think this is the only Star Wars novel that I have ever given higher than a 3-star rating. So props to this author for writing a really good Star Wars book. I actually did some research on it, and this came out right before they released Revenge of the Sith, so I can just imagine how cool it was for fans of Star Wars at the time to read this book before having seen Revenge of the Sith, because it is such a good setup, and like I pick up on all of the little like hints towards what happens in the movie, but obviously if you read this before seeing the movie you may not pick up on those little things. But for instance, like in this book it never mentions that Padme is pregnant, but I can pick up on like the little hints that the author drops that you would then find out when you watch the movie. So I think that would have been so cool if I had been able to read this before watching Revenge of the Sith ever, but even having read it afterwards, this was just such a fun time, and I enjoyed all of the little Easter eggs and the little like ties into the other films and the references and stuff like that. They referenced Anakin's dislike for sand in this book, which I always appreciate whenever that is referenced in any of the books. So yeah, I just super enjoyed this, and I'm glad that I did, since the first book that I read was a little bit of a letdown. I'm glad that I really enjoyed this, but it is a bit late, so I should probably go to bed because I have to go to work in the morning, but we will decide what my final book will be for the readathon. I doubt I'll be able to finish another whole book, but I'm at least going to attempt to start one. You guys, it's literally like 1 o'clock in the morning, and instead of going to bed because I have to go to work tomorrow, I'm literally folding clothes and watching Revenge of the Sith for the second time this week. Oh, this is just crazy. It's completely reignited my love for the prequels, I can't even tell you. And I am back to finish out this video in the same place that I started it. Somehow the lighting seems worse this time. Not sure how I managed that, but just ignore it for the outro of this video. So it is actually the day after the last day of Star Wars-a-thon, so it is officially over. I'm kind of sad about it because I had a super fun time this week reading the books and watching the films. The last time I saw you was when I was rewatching Revenge of the Sith for the second time, which isn't an unusual thing for me to do, by the way. That's just like how my personality is. Whenever I like find a new love for something, or I like reignite a love for something, like I've always loved Star Wars, I've always loved the prequels, but it was just like this week the prequels were at like the forefront of my mind. So whenever that happens, I just kind of obsess about it for like a week and then I move on to something else. So yesterday, when I wasn't at work, I ended up watching a lot of that YouTuber that I told you guys about, Star Wars Theory. I watched a lot of his videos, and I'm starting to come down off of my Star Wars high, and now I'm going to move on to probably something else. So I didn't end up actually starting a third book yesterday because I just, like I said, spent a lot of my time watching other things, but I'm still happy with the 2 books that I was able to get to. One I didn't super enjoy, but one I really enjoyed. I also have to change something that I told you yesterday or the day before, in which I said that this was the only Star Wars book I'd rated 4 stars. That is incorrect. I don't know why I always forget the first Star Wars series I ever read, which was the original trilogy, like the novelizations of the original trilogy. I read them years ago, like before I was ever on BookTube, and the edition I read as well was the Barnes & Noble leather-bound bind-up edition, which is definitely like the fanciest I have ever felt while reading a book. I think that's the only leather-bound book I've ever actually read, and it was just a fancy time with like the sprayed edges and the thick book and the really tiny words and the built-in bookmark. I felt really elegant while I was reading it, but I gave it 5 stars as a whole. I think I rated it on Goodreads just as one big book, which is definitely like the biggest book I've ever read if you count it as just one big story, but I gave those 5 stars. So besides the original trilogy, this is probably the best Star Wars book I have ever read, and the book that I was going to pick up was the 3rd book in this little trilogy that took place right after Revenge of the Sith, but it's called The Rise of Darth Vader, and I looked it up on Goodreads, and so many people on Goodreads did not give it very good ratings in comparison to this book, which actually did have pretty good ratings, and they were like, for a book that has Darth Vader in the title and on the cover, it really lacks in Darth Vader. So I was like, maybe I won't pick that up right now. But anyways, like I said, I'm still happy with what I got to, and this was such a fun week, but the fun does not end here because in just a couple of days starts the Disney read-along, which I will leave a little link to the video at the end of this video in my outro screen if you want to look into that, because it's starting in just a few days to when this video will hopefully go up. So yeah, that is all for this vlog. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know if you participated in Star Wars-a-thon and what books you picked up. Also, if you have any Star Wars books recommendations for me, let me know. I am specifically interested in reading books that follow Anakin's character, even more specifically set between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. That's like the time period that I really want to read about, so if you have any recommendations, please let me know. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!